It's just a public service announcement, sponsored by Just Blaze and the good folks at Rockefeller Records.
Fellow Americans, it is with the utmost pride and sincerity that I present this recording as a living testament and recollection of history in the making during our generation.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is Ho, H to the O-V. I used to move snowflakes.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Box Score with Cameron Sadeghi here. We have a lot to talk about here, a lot of topical issues in the world of sports, and just a little commentary piece also too. Again, this show is not always about what happens on the box score. Like it says, we go beyond the box score, and let me tell you the quick rundown, and then we'll get it going. And for those of you who want to reach me, tweet at SM_Cameron, and if you have any questions or comments, go right ahead. So, we have the Notre Dame academic incident. We'll talk about that. Also, this is kind of the big commentary piece. This has been a topic that has been going on. It's kind of water cooler talk, but who do you choose when you listen to the radio? On sports talk radio, the two so-called radio kings, Dan Patrick and Colin Cowherd, sports talk radio. Who do you choose? I'm going to revisit the Stephen Smith gambling issue, the point-shaving 1994 Arizona State incident. I saw it on TV. I want to bring it back to your memory, and we'll talk about gambling in sports. Also, from awfulannouncing.com, Joe Lucia writes an interesting article. The headline reads, "Is the length of NFL games ever going to become an issue?" We'll dive into that. And lastly, from Yahoo, there was a poll that NFL players, this isn't a surprise, but NFL players would least like to play for Oakland. So Jay Busby of the Shutdown Corner on Yahoo Sports wrote that one. So let's go ahead and start with the biggest issue out of them all, and that has to be Notre Dame. Sharon Turlip and Jonathan Clegg of Wall Street Journal, they wrote about this and how these players, let me go ahead and say this. So, John Jenkins, the university president, said that the school was alerted to issue last month. I'm reading part of this, by the way. Jenkins said the school was alerted to the issue last month by an academic staff member who suspected that students were turning in homework written by others. He declined to comment on any further details and said the investigation was in its early stages. He stressed that the school has reached no conclusions about those involved. No judgment has been made yet, he said. So I just read a bit of that from this article by Sharon Turlip and Jonathan Clegg of the Wall Street Journal. So you look at this issue, and it just speaks to the larger issue at hand, and that is athletes and academics in college. I mean, the whole goal to go to college is really to gain your degree, to achieve academic excellence, and time again, we've seen athletes just use college as a vehicle to the pros. And that is so alarming, because it used to really not be that way. But the new modern era that we live in, it's become that way. It's a harsh reality, but players are not really looking to gain their education. They're just trying to make it to the pros. And we need to fix that. We really do. And I'm thinking that we stop all the nonsense. We stop all the paper classes. I saw a documentary on Epics. It's a really good channel, Epics, and it was about college athletes and education and how, they have paper classes where they'll show up one day in the semester and write maybe a 2-paragraph essay or maybe or just write a 2-paragraph letter or something, and they'll count that as credits for a class, or just cheating their way, taking shortcuts all around the system. It's so obvious, and it's just so hilarious that everyone in the NCAA, all the university presidents come out and they're so innocent. They're like, well, we want to make sure our athletes are educated. We want to make sure everything's going on right. We want to make sure nobody cheats. But the system allows for people to cheat. There's so much cheating going on. No one seems to put a stop to this. There are so many loopholes, nobody covers them up. For reasons I really, I think, and people are saying, well, Cameron, there are loopholes in everything. Mistakes happen all the time. But these mistakes have been going on for a pretty long time, okay? And I feel like the system itself is perpetuating all this. The system knows, okay, football is a really great platform and great forum, and just athletics in general, to showcase the school, right? If you make it to March Madness, deep, I'm talking about the Final Four, okay, your school's revenue goes up. The schools could care less when it comes to education. They're here to make money. Let's be honest. They're here to make money on these athletes. There's a reason why whenever they sell jerseys on athletes, the athletes don't get paid. Okay, that's why there's such a big issue about athletes getting paid, athletes not getting paid, and all the controversy there. The system is so horrific all the way through. The NCAA has become a laughingstock in sports. It used to be one of the most beloved organizations in the world, and now it's become such a joke that the average fan doesn't want to even tune in, okay? That once upon a time, the NCAA football was bigger than the NFL. Now it's not because of this. Because of this, the NFL is king, okay? The NFL is king because of how great the system is and how awful the system has become here. The money has controlled, okay? The money has controlled everyone's mentality. Everybody at the top has become very greedy. Let's just be honest. Let's hold people accountable. The NCAA has become very greedy, and quite honest, it's almost fat cat syndrome. Okay, you start having success, and then you start getting lazy, and that's what the NCAA has become, lazy. Why in the world? Seriously, why in the world a 4-team playoff? Why? Why can't you make it more than 4 teams? You know why? Because those bowl games, they get money off those. You know the Meineke Carr bowl games? The Sheraton bowl games? The Fiesta Bowl? The Tostitos? Gosh. I mean, the All-State, bowl, the this bowl, that bowl. I don't care what bowl. Why are we trying to... It's just a money-making machine, the NCAA. When has it become... It used to be all about the love of the game. And it used to be about the great nature about the student-athlete and the nature of athletics and the birth of athletics. And we see boys become men and girls become women. It was such a great system. Everybody was involved. There was teamwork, communication. Everybody was on task. Everybody was on point. And now it's just become who's got money, what's going to make us money, and I don't really care about the nature and the beauty of the game. And that's why the NCAA has become what it has become for the past 20 years. Past 20 to 30 years, from the SMU case to the Miami, Nevin Shapiro, to this, to so many other issues. everybody's gotten greedy. Everybody wants to get to the next level. And ultimately, it has hurt everyone in the process. It really has. Everybody is either unfairly blamed or not blamed, or people are not held accountable, and it all is really you got to put the blame up at top with Mark Emmert. Really, Mark Emmert and the NCAA. You really have to put the blame on the people at the top, and Mark Emmert is the guy to blame. I know that's very... People are going to say, Cameron, come on, really? You don't blame people? It's not good. Look, it's not the athlete's fault. It's not the kids. It's not even the coaches who may do some wrongdoing. When the structure is that bad and the organization is that awful, I mean, Mark Emmert is at fault. And the NCAA, I think, needs to find a new president and new structure if they want to have any success and any real, when it comes to honesty, trust, accountability, it's non-existent. And the NCAA is at a point where I don't even watch. You know what? What's the point of me watching a college? Like, okay, honestly, this may be a little ridiculous, but why not have a salary cap? I know people say, well, the athletes are recruited and no one's paid. Let's be honest. You don't think Alabama pays their guys, or LSU recruiting that 13-year-old linebacker? Where are the guidelines? Where are the rules? They're not there. And we need to get back to a place where we have accountability. The NCAA needs accountability before it goes under even more. Let's move on to another issue. Again, water cooler talk. You talk about, the media is such a, when you're on national sports radio, or you're a part of the media, or you're on radio, you're on TV, you're on the big networks. It doesn't even have to be a sports media, news media, entertainment media. You're always going to be talked about by fans, and people are going to know you. And certainly, people in the sports world definitely know who Dan Patrick is and Colin Cowherd. Dan Patrick, NBC, and he does radio on the Premier Radio networks. Colin Cowherd, he does ESPN radio. He does ESPN shows. Dan Patrick used to be on ESPN, but Cowherd's the new replacement, and Colin Cowherd really has put himself in he's got a big time slot. People always say prime time is at night, but prime time's in the morning. I mean, Colin Cowherd's got a really nice time in the morning, and same with Dan Patrick. But I want to talk about both of them. People always ask, who's the best? Who is the best on the radio, Dan Patrick or Colin Cowherd? I flip-flopped so many times. Every time I listen to them, I flip-flop. Now I can't make up my mind when it comes to Colin Cowherd or Dan Patrick, because both of them either say really ridiculous things, or sometimes they're geniuses on the air and they have some golden radio moments. But I am disappointed in both of them for a few things, but let's just break it down. Dan Patrick on ESPN, on Premier Radio Networks and NBC. I think he's also on the Audience Network on DirecTV. So, Dan, his show is 3 hours, right? There's only one really good hour, and then you shouldn't listen after that. I mean, if you look at, sometimes they replay Dan Patrick's show, and they condense it into 1 hour. They do it on NBC Sports Network, I believe. And they just show the best moments of the show. Because Dan Patrick's show, I can't listen to that for 3 hours. I'm sorry, I can't listen to that for 3 hours. I can't. I don't care what McLovin... Okay, Dan Patrick's show is constructed where it's kind of like the Howard Stern show in a way, where they're little like mouthpieces, kind of, I would say. So you got the show producer. I mean, you got the booker guy. His name is Fritzy. Okay, you got McLovin, who supposedly is this NFL expert, NFL columnist. Then you have Seaton, who's the mixer guy. He checks the audio and all that. And then you got Paulie, who's probably the most professional one out of all of them. And they talk sometimes in and out of the show, and the show can get a little out of hand sometimes. They'll be on topic, and then someone will say something off topic, and then it's like scripted laughs and really kind of unprofessional a little bit. It's kind of bad radio. You know, sometimes on radio, people laugh like you could tell it's scripted laughs. Like they'll go on the radio, the air. That's what I meant to say. Sorry about that. They'll go on the air and they'll say, hey, you know, the pre-show, they'll say, hey, laugh at this, or they'll laugh at something that doesn't even make sense or that's not even funny, and then they think that's good radio because when you laugh, you know, people can relate, and it's just very mediocre radio. And Dan Patrick has done it, and Dan Patrick he tries to boast himself the entire program. I mean, constantly. And, you know, Patrick does have some good guests. I think his interviews are great. I don't think his commentaries are that good. I think they're kind of unprofessional. The commentary is somewhat racist, some people have said. I've noticed that trend a little bit, especially when you talk about Miguel Cabrera and Mike Trout. That was really fishy. Really fishy in his commentary. You know, he talked to Michael Irvin when he interviewed Michael Irvin, and Michael Irvin was screaming and shouting at Dan Patrick, you know, for being racist towards African American players, and also towards Latino players, and it's completely on cue, because personally I think Patrick has put himself where he can be called out as a racist. He has said some things that he's been flirting the line with racism a little bit. I think he's kind of weird in a way, like whenever he interviews women, kind of gets a little weird. Kind of is a little inappropriate at times, personally, when I see Dan Patrick, and I think sometimes he feels like he can get away with it because he's been on the air so long and he knows so many celebrities, so he feels like he can get away with it sometimes. That's the problem I have with Dan Patrick. But the positives when I see Dan Patrick, it's very simple. His interviews are golden. Some of his interviews are top notch. I mean, so many networks try to fight for his audio so they can put it on the air because his interviews are so revealing. And, you know, it's heart-to-heart conversation. It's really good. Really good radio when you listen to him do interviews. But after that, I can't see any reason why you would want to listen to Dan Patrick. I'm sorry. It's just what I believe in. And I'm not trying to say this because I'm trying to tell you, oh, listen to national sports now because Dan Patrick is horrible because Cameron said so. No, I never said Dan Patrick is horrible. I never said, you know, if you want to listen, go ahead. I mean, I don't mind you listening here. I mean, that'd be great if you want to listen to national sports. But Dan Patrick does have some flaws, and that's all I'm saying. And he does have some positives. I'm just breaking it down. And now let's go to ESPN, the four-letter network, and Colin Cowherd. He has said some things that are way off the wall. From the when Sean Taylor passed away, he made some jokes that were really insensitive. He talked about John Wall dancing and trying to act like John Wall's some immature person after making a snap judgment. And it's so funny, Cowherd goes on the air saying, well, it's not good to make snap judgments, but he constantly makes snap judgments. So, I mean, Cowherd sometimes can be a hypocrite, but Cowherd does have some good commentaries and some good rants. It's kind of the opposite with Cowherd. Cowherd's interviews aren't that special in my opinion, but Cowherd's commentaries can be legendary. When it's from Starbucks guy to Withedness, about how teachers have to have awareness and withedness, from bodybuilding guy, from NBA players, small markets, talking about NBA players and DUIs. I think he's had some good commentaries. His interviews aren't good, in my opinion. I think he's really rude to callers. He tries to one-up callers all of the time. I mean, anytime a caller comes onto the show, he finds a way to rip the caller and tries to act like the caller is subhuman. And I think that's very inappropriate when you go on the air trying to make a caller subhuman. So, I mean, I like Cowherd, I like Dan Patrick, but I don't love them. I think I like them equally. It just depends what mood I'm in. But they do have their flaws. They do have their, they are great in what they do. But, again, they do have flaws. And sometimes I can never understand why one person would want to listen totally to one guy and not the other. You either kind of like both or you just don't like him at all, in my opinion. I don't know how you can be, I'm just a Dan Patrick fan, I hate the Colin Cowherd guy, or I love Colin Cowherd, I hate Dan Patrick. You can't really say that. There's no love-hate thing. Dan Patrick tries to make it a love-hate thing, and that usually turns out to be pretty bad. Let's move on to Steven Smith. I don't know if you have seen the show. It's on, I believe, it's on Destination America. The show is called Cheating in Vegas. They've been having episodes recently on Destination America, and one of it was really, one of the stories on the show, really interesting in the episode. It was about Steven Smith. He was a Arizona State guard, and he was a really great player. He's the Arizona State leading scorer. He won gold in '93. So he, in the Olympics, in the FIBA U21 World Championships. But Steven Smith, he played internationally. He had a short stint in the NBA. Due to what happened and the allegations that came out, and he was guilty. Basically, in 1994, a bookie, or some guy, told Steven Smith that if you can still win the game, Steven, but you have to win by a certain margin. In Vegas, sports betting is not whoever wins or whoever loses. It's by point spreads. Okay, and for those of you who don't know, it's about point spreads. And Steven Smith was told to win a game by, I believe, like 2 points or something. And they were supposed to blow this team out. Win by like 15 or something, or even like 20. And Steven Smith personally slacked off, took bad shots, just so he could win the game by 2 points. And so he did that. He got like $2,000. He was broke, and he got $2,000. And he kept doing it. All of a sudden, he lost his money because once at halftime, he was really keeping the game close, playing poorly on purpose, and the coach found out at halftime. Started yelling and screaming at him about this, and then Steven really had to pick it up, and they won by like 30 the next game. And then Steven lost all of his money, and then the fallout occurred. Steven, was put in jail. It was really awful, and the reason why I bring this up is because gambling in sports is like this huge tree, and there's so many branches in this huge tree, from gambling to fantasy sports. There have been so many businesses and so many business ideas and so many things that have evolved from the concept of sport. Okay, from the concept of sport, the evolution of gambling, from fantasy sports and all this, from bar and grill sports restaurants, from all these things, they have evolved to be so grand and so large, and gambling has been one of those branches. And it's from the Steven Smith case and so many other, Pete Rose, I mean, betting on baseball, it's just, it seems like baseball, and not just baseball, just all sports in general. I think sports gambling is so... I don't... Okay. I know people have a job, but sports gambling needs to be a little bit more quiet, or be a little more, I don't know, subtle, or... It just seems like gambling... It seems gambling in sports, it's become so obvious and everything. It's like every time you see a game on, or people say it's rigged, or I feel like gambling has created those conspiracies. And if we can somehow reduce gambling in sports, or really crack down on some of these athletes where gambling shouldn't even be a part of the protocol or agenda for any of these athletes, it's just such a horrible thing. Horrible thing, because people say, oh, I'll just do it once, but they keep doing it. It's a reoccurring. Steven Smith said, I'm just going to do it once just to get my money back, get settled. But it didn't work out that way. It became worse because Steven Smith kept doing it game after game after game after game, and it got worse. And it really ruined his professional career in the NBA. So these athletes have to look out. I just don't think fans bet so much on the Super Bowl, hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's so inappropriate, really. It's so nauseating to see it. People gambling their house on it, literally. Gambling cars on games. Gambling needs to slow down. There needs to be a limit. I don't think you can just bet whatever you want. And I mean, I know there's a minimum, but there's no real maximum. And people can just bet however much they want, and we need to... I know the business makes so much money off of gambling, sports gambling, but we need to recognize the livelihoods of people. And people's lives are going to be put in jeopardy if this continues to happen. And it ruins the nature and the beauty of sport. Because now, whenever there's a game that's being bet on, people are going to say, well, if this outcome didn't work, the game must be rigged. Really? That shouldn't be the case. In sports, we should never have that mindset. Whenever we watch games, see games, we should never say that. What happened to the beauty of sports? What happened to being mesmerized after somebody making a big play? Now, if a big play happens, everybody talks about why or how somebody could have bet on it and all this, and how the business of sports is ruining what's happening on the field and everything is set up. It shouldn't be that way. And sports gambling has perpetuated these thoughts, has instigated for one to believe that sports is rigged, and it isn't, quite frankly. There's so many myths, or radio pundits such as Alex Jones, who've come on the air and say sports are rigged, but he doesn't know really quite anything, because sports are not rigged. And if we took sports gambling out of the equation, we would have a much cleaner perspective on sports, and even more people would tune in to sporting events, because then no one would believe a game is rigged or a game is fixed or even set up. So I hope that we can make the issue. I know people have to make money in this business, and I get it. But we need to tame it a little bit. I mean, come on now. We can tame it just a little bit. We know better, okay? And we don't want to put people's lives on the line because of this. Let's talk about the NFL. NFL games, are they becoming too long? Joe Lucia pointed that out in his awfulannouncing.com column. He makes a good point. He says the shorter attention spans nowadays, more penalties, and he mentioned how it's going to be much harder to watch a nationally televised NFL game with the amount of replays now. Everything is being replayed, so many penalties. He just begs the question, will there be any complaints about a need to speed the game up? And he makes a good point. Because, and he mentioned this, most people do not have NFL Red Zone. You know, some fans don't have NFL Red Zone, and it's going to be hard. It's hard for the average fan to sit through touchdown, extra point, commercial, kickoff, commercial. He mentioned that. It does start to wear off, I think. It may or may not. You know, that's why NFL Red Zone became such a hit. Because you get live look-ins, no commercials. And now these local feeds, they're having a hard time getting ratings because of NFL Red Zone. It's funny, NFL Red Zone has been a blessing and a curse, because for the local audiences and the local games, it's been hard for CBS and Fox to draw viewership. NFL Red Zone has actually hurt CBS and Fox the most, because if you're just watching NFL Red Zone the entire time, and you're not seeing anything on CBS or Fox, NFL Red Zone, that NFL network is just getting the viewership, okay? And CBS and Fox are getting nothing. So CBS and Fox really hate the idea, but it's... Okay, let me put it this way. It is good for the NFL that Red Zone is on, but it's not good for the networks broadcasting it. Because if CBS and Fox don't get the viewership that they want, then it will definitely become an ugly mess, and maybe NFL Red Zone won't be on because the NFL really likes to cater to the networks that broadcast the games, okay? They do not want to have a situation where CBS and Fox are in a dire need where, they're getting very low ratings, and they do not want to see that happening. I really do see that. I personally don't watch as much CBS or Fox on Sundays. I just see Red Zone because I'm going to get NFL Red Zone is at a pretty good price comparing to Sunday Ticket. You get to see every game. You get to see the big plays, what's going on live, big drives, overtime games. And the fans, they love that high-paced action. You got a great host in Scott Hansen. It's set up so beautifully. And CBS and Fox, you're just getting one game, 3 hours, commercials. It's hard to sit through that when you have an option like Red Zone. And Red Zone is a blessing and a curse. Because I don't think the broadcast partners are happy. I don't think CBS is happy. I don't think Fox is particularly too happy because you've got this channel really taking away all your viewership. And they promote these games. CBS and Fox, they promote these games all week with advertisements on their networks. And it's hard if you're not going to be able to... It's very tough. Very, very, very tough to draw any sort of audience when you have this great of a channel, especially at the price, too. I think NFL Red Zone's about $40, $50 depending on your cable provider. Sunday Ticket I think is $100 or close to that range, and I mean $50 for 17 games is pretty good. Okay, assuming if it's $51, I mean that's just $3 a game, $3 a week a show. So that it's basically every 7 hours is $3. So I mean you can't, or every 6 hours is $3. So you're really getting your money's worth when it comes to Red Zone. And I mean, the fans are willing to pay the extra money to see those games. They really are. Especially when you have a great host like Scott Hansen and just everything the NFL has done. It's alarming for CBS and Fox, but I think it will be okay. But Joe does make a good point, because maybe in the playoffs fans may complain because they want to see a quicker pace. So the NFL really has to look out for that. For the NFL and the length of games. I think Joe brings up a really good point. Let's talk about NFL players. Where would you like to play? Basically, this poll, ESPN NFL Nation Confidential poll, surveyed 100-plus players to find the least desirable location to play in the NFL. The question was, the only way I'd play for a team name is if they doubled my salary. And I'm reading this from Jay Busby. Guess who the winner is? 23% of the 82 respondents said the Raiders of Oakland. 19% said Buffalo. 16% said Cleveland. 9% said Jacksonville. And surprisingly, 6% said Green Bay. Which is really surprising. I don't know why Green Bay. Maybe because of cold weather, but I would want to play for Green Bay. If they forced me to play for Green Bay, I wouldn't be that mad. I have a chance for the Super Bowl every year, so I wouldn't be that disappointed. But Oakland, in sports, we see so much with this. Everybody loves to blame the athlete. They love to say, it's the athlete's fault for not winning games. It's always the players. It's never the coach. It's never the owner. It's never the organization at the top. And quite frankly, when you're playing pro sports, it's all about the organization at the top. There's a reason why you lose for 20 straight years. There's a reason why you lose for 10 straight years. There's a reason for long-term losing, for long periods of losing. It's not a coincidence. It's not accidental. It's not fluky. Alright? So, I just think it's kind of hilarious how time and time again we see pundits blame players when it should be owners and general managers and people at the top. They create the framework, they create the culture. Every player will buy into it if you create a professional structure. Oakland doesn't have one. Not a surprise. Buffalo doesn't really have one. Not a surprise. Jacksonville doesn't have one. Not a surprise. So many teams, they don't have it. Yeah, it's the silver and black. They have good mystique, good aura about them. They're a brand in themselves, but I wouldn't want to play for Oakland. Who would want to play for Oakland? There's no structure. No structure. It's just a reality TV show. It's like the LA Kiss. I don't know if you've seen the little documentary series, Fourth and Loud on AMC. Is this a joke? Oh, by the way, I was going to commentate about that and give you a commentary. The LA Kiss are still a joke, and it's not a surprise, and I told you they were going to be a joke, and what we saw in the Fourth and Loud episodes, they still are a joke. The LA Kiss. Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons of the Kiss Band. They think they can just walk into the Arena Football League and make a team and bring this little hardcore mentality. Really? Really? Go-go dancers? Really? Crazy fireworks? Really? Football players trying to self-promote themselves with below-average skills? Really? There's so much more into the promotion and less into the winning. You know, there's a reason why I love organizations like San Antonio, the Spurs, or the New England Patriots, or organizations like that. Because they know the greatest promotion in sports is winning. If you win, everybody will love you. You don't need to tell everyone about it. You just go out, be quiet about it, and win. The LA Kids, they don't want to win. They want to be a show. And when you're in a sporting environment, everybody wants to see winning because winning is the show. The show isn't a go-go dancer and fireworks all over the place hitting fans and fans like, I don't know, what's next? A fan is going to parachute onto the field? I mean, is the quarterback going to parachute onto the field? I mean, beer spilling all over the place. The coach loves to yell at everybody. I mean, F-bomb after F-bomb, cursing after cursing. These coaches were so unprofessional, too. They're treating the players like they were below, and it was so dramatic. Everything about it was so dramatic. I mean, Gene said, we need to put a show on. Paul Stanley, we need to put a... Win! Go-go dancers don't win football games. Alright, we're going to get Robert Dieters here. He's calling in. We're going to have him on right now. Hello, Robert. Welcome to Beyond the Box Score.
Hey, Cameron. How's it going?
Great. How about you?
I'm doing good. I'm just listening to your show, and I thought this was the NFL, not the Arena Football League. But I gotta say, Oakland Raiders, their field is terrible. If you've ever been there, this is probably the worst football field you've ever been to. Because they have to convert the football field into a baseball field, so they're basically playing on dirt as well. Are you kidding me? That is literally awful for all NFL players. I feel so bad you have to go to Oakland and play there. Like the 49ers have to this season. I mean, to be honest, Cameron, I gotta say, at Oakland, it's a scary place to be. If you're white, you are scared for your life.
I agree. I've heard so many people, I mean, one of my friends, he was an Eagles fan. He went to Oakland and profanity-laced chants at him. I mean, throwing popcorn and stuff. He was just wearing an Eagles jersey. He didn't even say a word. So Oakland, yeah, it's a pretty tough environment. But I mentioned the Arena Football League, the LA Kiss, because they have episodes going on AMC. It's like Hard Knocks for Arena Football League, the LA Kiss. And they're just a joke because it's Paul Stanley, it's Gene Simmons, it's the Kiss Band. They're trying to make a show out of this and less about winning games. How does anyone treat the AFL seriously with owners like this? I mean, would you want to watch Arena Football if you saw this?
Well, I mean, there's women in cages, so that's pretty entertaining. I guess watching the Arena Football game. But I mean, the LA Kids are not a good team. When you go to San Jose, bro, you are in the zone. You are watching the Sabercats. The Sabercats are pretty damn good.
Yes.
Arena Football team. three-time champions. But when you go to LA, they're literally the pit hole of the arena football. Who wants to go there? I mean, I understand it's LA, congratulations. But who wants to go play at a shitty team where it's an easy freaking win? You have to be blind not to win that game against the LA Kids.
I agree. I mean, and first of all, they keep saying LA. They're actually at the Honda Center in Anaheim. I don't know why. Every team that goes at Anaheim, the Anaheim Angels, are now the LA Angels. The Anaheim Ducks, well, they have the LA Kings, so they have to say Anaheim Ducks. But it's almost like it's just a complete disaster. But I'm going to wrap this show up, Robert. But do you have anything else to say before you head on out?
Angels fans, they are the worst. They do not cheer for their team. Jared Richards had 6 innings of shutout. Had 6 shutout innings against the Boston Red Sox. When me, Cameron, Levy, Caroline, Nick Rice, and Sam Rosen went to the game, no one was cheering. And I was rooting for the Red Sox with my boy Cameron, the host of this show. Caroline and Levy, we were louder than the Angels fans. Dang it. I don't get why Angels fans think that they're so freaking good. They're not. Congratulations, you won 1 World Series. Look what the Red Sox have done. Okay? They have won a World Series recently in 2013. I understand they're tanking this year, but still, Angels fans are awful. That's all I gotta say, Cameron. Have a great night, and God bless.
Thanks, Robert. He does make a good point about, actually, let me finish. Anaheim sports. I didn't know that would become such a big topic right now, but it kind of has with the LA Kiss, and now Robert mentioned the Anaheim Angels thing. I live very close to Anaheim. I would say 30 minutes away. 30 minutes away from Anaheim, and they are very fair weather fans. I'm sorry. I know I'm going to upset a lot of Anaheim sports fans, but they are very fair weather. Very fair weather. They are not really into the games as much as LA fans are. It's a medium media market. It's a medium media market. It's not, your LA, your New York, your Chicago, your Philly, your your Dallas, Fort Worth area. It's not the same. Not the same. Ducks fans are pretty good. Angels fans, Angels fans, they're not there. When the team's doing poorly, they're not there. But ever since, Trout and now Pujols and all these guys, everybody loves to, they like to go. They're very fair weather. They're very on the bandwagon. Once a team does well, then they join the bandwagon. But they're not there through and through. This is not Philadelphia where they live and die for their teams, or Boston. No, it's not that type of area. And they've received a lot of criticism, and it's been fair. Because, it's not many cities have sports teams in America, professional sports teams. They have the LA Kiss. Well, I wouldn't really go out to support them either. I don't blame Anaheim fans. You got the Ducks. You have the Angels, okay? So, you have a lot. There are areas in the U.S. where you've got no pro sports teams. Look at an area like Portland. Just the Trailblazers. And, Oregon, it's just the Blazers, really, for pro sports. And I do have a big issue with Anaheim fans. They should be proud of their teams. I don't think they're not the same. They're not the same like Chicago. And I know Anaheim fans listening to this, they're going to be so aggravated listening to this. But you really think you're like Chicago. You really think you're like a Philadelphia. You really think you're like an LA, a San Francisco, not Miami, like a Toronto. They're not that. They're not that, okay? So, Anaheim fan, Mr. Anaheim, Mrs. Anaheim fan, you are not like a Chicago fan. Please. Beyond the Box score, Cameron Sadeghi, we really appreciated you listening at this late night, but you can listen at any time here on National Sports, whether it's Beyond the Box Score, whether it's In the Paint, whether it's any show on National Sports. Please listen, and we're also going to have a new website. You know, we'll all be posting blogs and articles. I'll be posting stuff, of course, or I'll be trying to. So we're going to have a lot, and that's it. I've got nothing else to say. I mean, I give this person a shout out every single time, but I'm going to, because every time I'm Beyond the Box where we talk about like topical issues about maybe players doing bad things or players doing great things off the field or crimes, and whenever you need help legally, I mean this, whenever you need real help legally, I mean, I can't find a better criminal defense attorney in the Southern California area, better than Dodd Ghassem-Khani. I really can't. This guy, top to bottom, he's got it all. He is a true fighter. If you're going through any legal troubles or have any legal questions, I suggest that you call Dodd Ghassem-Khani. I'll give you the website right here. It's Ghassem-Khani Law. SDOCDefense.com. He does a great job. He covers all areas, whether it's San Diego County, Orange County, and even LA County. He's got it all. He's done it all. And his passion is contagious. And again, for all your legal needs, Dodd Ghassem-Khani. He may do a radio ad for us. Okay, I've been asking for that to be a sponsor of the show. He said, yes, I'll do it, but just contact me, and I will contact him about it. So, again, Dodd Ghassem-Khani, SDOC, for your legal needs in Southern California. Thank you, everybody. Beyond the Box Score is over. We'll see you next time.